It is 29th of April 2025, 9:36 p.m. So I want to talk today about crossing the threshold in terms of the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, crossing the first threshold. So for a while, um, I've been kind of reflecting how my life is going through the hero's journey. One, because I think it makes it more interesting, and it's also good practice for, I think, having that narrative mindset of how a story should go. I guess should go is a dangerous way of putting things, but in a sense, I think it's just good practice. And also I've noticed it has almost like a therapeutic effect when you really reflect on it. Although I use AI actually to kind of help me analyze, almost like psychoanalysis, through my own hero's journey. And for a while, I thought I was around um, was it me Return to the Goddess, I guess, uh, which where the goal is perhaps I have a business in biology, successful and rich, and a full-on, like a well-rounded scientist. But I've had a sort of an existential crisis, which I never really had. I always had a strong conviction with how I wanted to do things, and sort of do still. But I think I've reached a point of less conviction right now, and this all started when really recently when I started working a full-time job. So from high school, I guess, I really started working hard towards studying biology because, I mean, it's something I like and I am good at it. And I went all the way to the Netherlands, or here, to study biology and get a biology degree and everything. And, that's what, for 7 years of studying hard, I guess. 3 years of studying really hard in college, and then another half a year of job hunting, networking, to finally get a job at actually a decent company. And after all this, I'm in logistics. I'm in a lab, sure, I deal with important materials, but it's not science, It's just aliquoting and storing products in a freezer, organizing, emailing, communication. This is not science to me. To me, science is doing experiments, discovering things, dealing with animals, plants, exploring, you know. And I mean, if I keep pursuing this career path, eventually maybe I can get to a place, or possibly through master's first, maybe even PhD, or going up the ladder of this corporate life science. But it just seems like just so much work for something that's not so promising, and that's something that maybe I don't know if I really want in the end. Um, that um, let's say I do the academic route again. That's gonna be more stressful and not much um, financial security. You know, especially PhD. I hear PhD is hell. Um, and academia can be stressful. You know. Um, and then the corporate route is just not my thing really. No, I'm tired of really just working. I've been working since I was 14. I think made a whole entry of going over all my um, work, you know, work experience. And although I would say the work themselves have given me its own value, I've always worked in the promise that I'll eventually get to the real work, which is in the sciences, that I was building up to working, you know, full time in a lab or as a researcher or something. And I am a research associate, but after all this, it's like I have just started to work towards what I really want to be working at again. And it's not even that 100%, you know. And being in a company, you realize everything is so compartmentalized. It's really hard to be in a position where it's fulfilling, I feel. And even if it's fulfilling, it's going to take me more years and years just to get there. Um, and I don't want to do that. It took me years. It took me a lot of stress to finally get here. And now I just know it's not for me. And I need to, you know, for a while I was stressing about, oh no, my contract I have is only half a year and it's already 2 months now. And my contract ends, my visa ends. What am I gonna do? But I think now it's sort of a blessing in disguise that I have sort of the freedom to, you know, work hard. I could either choose to work hard and try to extend that contract or find another job. I even got a call from an agency that said they will help me in August. So, you know, I can choose that path to continue. But now I also have the choice to say, you know what? I tried. This is not for me. I I have a strong gut feeling. And my gut feeling is really for the past, it's been building up, right? But for the past few days, it's become really, really strong. And now that I think about it, it's kind of crazy because this is something that that would have taken me another like truffle shroom trip to reach. Because I think this is another thing I have been suppressing. The one before was really religion, but I guess this is something I've been suppressing, lying to myself. And I think now that I've been crawling through dirt, I finally reached the first step, and seeing how far the stairs go and to some sort of place that doesn't even look nice, um, I think I'm gonna step back. I don't mind going back to dirt if it means I could go a whole nother path. And yeah, I think that's my point. And then the whole path, which I have expressed time and time again in these entries, is to go into arts, but really story writing and filmmaking. I think it's weird that it's not like a non-lucrative path, but I guess I always thought maybe science would be better and I could work on my art on the side, but um, the other thing is I don't have time. I get home late. I don't have energy. And I don't know, and I don't want to do this work. I just really feel like I'm wasting my life. And yeah, I have definitely doubts, and I still have time to think this over, I guess, for the next 4 months. But yeah, I don't know. Every day the gut feeling gets stronger, and so I wanted to go back to the topic here, which was crossing the first threshold. And from my understanding, but I think it's very clear, is basically the first threshold is getting out of your comfort zone, to sort of leave the thing you built up, usually in a realm of comfort, and to leave that to achieve something more true or heroic or whatever. In a sense, or it is killing your ego, right? Which is very poignant to my situation, because in a sense science has been a sort of way to build my ego, of basically becoming smart, that when I really think about it, wanting masters and PhDs for my ego, to have that sort of accolade of intelligence. And it's not like such a horrible thing, but I think for me, realizing that it is also an ego thing makes me think maybe it's not the best decision for me. Maybe in the future I'll go back to academia, I don't know, but right now maybe I should stop focusing on my ego and ask what's really true to myself, and that story writing has always been something I've been doing in my head since, I don't know, a kid. And like, I really don't have role models. I don't really like respect people, care about people too much, but like Dan Harmon is one person that, it's kind of weird, but as a creative person, as a stand-up, I don't know, as a communicator, I would say he is someone I look up to. I think he has some problematic past, but if you can see him as a funny guy on a well-spoken guy in Harmontown. Um, if you can see him as the creator, writer, director of Community, right? Yeah, some Rick and Morty, I guess. And Rick and Morty's good, but more so Community, you know. And I don't know, just his power and his talk about modern Minecraft, which was surprising because I'm doing that too. All of that is someone I look up to, and is also because of how I am interested in writing, you know. So yeah, and then going back to the threshold. So going back to the threshold. So it is an ego thing. True to myself is story writing, and so I need to cross that threshold. But of course, that is difficult, right? Um, I've been using AI to kind of analyze this first threshold, what it is, and to me, I have 4 guardians. It's not something just suggested to me with AI. I was thinking about it, but AI helped me kind of materialize it. And I even gave it names. The first guardian is Futuros. Futuros is a guardian of what ifs. What if I fail in the arts? You know, what if I end up wasting time? Futuros is about really my fear of making the wrong decisions and wasting more of my life. And then, shit, I already forgot. I think, and then the whole thing with Futuros, you know, I went over like how to really understand what the guardian is protecting and what it can teach me. And I think for Futuros, it's really about, you know, it's protecting me, right? From the fear of lost time, but it's something that I just have to acknowledge and say no, but I do want to still pursue. It's sort of a way for me to, by overcoming, I am reinforcing my decision in this goal. So that is what Futuros is. And then my second guardian is Economicus. He is a guardian that asks me, how am I gonna be financially sustainable? And it's really interesting if you think about it, because for the past 3 years, I've been just barely making it. You know, I have been, not always, but the past 3 years, I've been so focused on trying not to spend too much money, really focusing on food and rent, you know, as my main thoughts on spending, and always stressing about, oh God, I'm eating too much, or I'm paying too much for food. For transportation, it's like, oh God, why is it so expensive? And just stressing about money so much, you know. And then I finally get to a point where I can relax a little. Like now I'm almost completed my core savings goal, and then I'm now trying to throw it all away, you know. And Economicus is asking me, what the fuck are you doing? And the truth here is also that I really like how AI put it, that Economicus is not my greed, my need for money. Economicus is not greedy, it's wounded. It's wounded from all this financial stress. It's protecting me from what hell I'm about to put myself into, possibly. And and money to me really is about freedom. It's about financial freedom, to not be dependent, to not feel trapped, um, to be able to really do what I want to do. That's what money is to me. Um, and although going into the arts means also in a form of freedom, it's ironically also gonna take away my freedom because now I'm not gonna have a sustainable source of income, at least realistically, you know. Um, and it, yeah, I think that's the point. And then, so really, Economicus is an important guardian that I have to acknowledge, understand that the path, if I'm gonna cross this threshold, I can't be erratic, you know. I have to still be financially literate, financially smart about my decisions. This whole living in financial pain, I guess, have pushed me to be very scrutinizing with my finances. Like, I'm constantly updating this Excel I have that tracks all my cash flow, all my transactions. There's a monthly analysis, quarterly, annually, and I tend to update it more, where it calculates all my net worth, you know, and I'm graphing everything to help, and then comparing from the past month or past quarter to really help me do better with my spending and savings. And I think the important point is that I have to continue that sort of thing. And then when I'm going into the arts, I have to have a grounded financial strategy. I have to be wise and be frugal, which actually, thanks to these 3 years, I think I can. I guess I have bought a few stuffs in the past, but really most of my spending has been on housing and rent, and that's all I really need. You know, at least I already have the things I need, which is my PC, so I can do Blender. And yeah, editing, yeah. So, and I guess I need a camera, but I have my phone at least. But also, like, I'm making money right now, so I'm trying to save up for a camera anyways. But the point is, I really shouldn't need that much money, you know, at least at the start. I think as I make my projects bigger, then I'll probably need more money, but then even then, I need to be financially smart about it. And that's why Economicus is telling me to be wise with my finances and to not forget that I'm not throwing myself back into chains, right? That I want to promise Economicus that I'm still going to pursue freedom. That's the second guardian. And I really like Economicus for that. My third guardian is Reflexio. Reflexio seems similar to Futuros, that it kind of creates self-doubt, but it's less about like failure and losing time in the future. Reflexio is more, I describe it as a scientist, a pragmatist, that looks at this desire I have right now and says, wait a minute, isn't this just a transient, a psychological phenomenon that I'm experiencing because I'm in this new space called full-time work, that I just see the grass is greener, you know. I always see the grass is greener. When I wasn't here, I wish I had a full-time job, you know. Now that I have a full-time job, I wish I wasn't restrained by full-time job. And then it basically sort of says, wait, this goal you have is just an illusion. It's not real. It'll pass. Don't worry about it. It's a whisperer, you know. Economicus was kind of very tangible, I guess. Very tangible. Futuros was also kind of tangible. You know. But Reflexio kind of turns everything 180 degrees. And it's very convincing because in a sense it could be true, you know. But then at the same time, I'm reminded that this is not something that just is happening now. This was something that's been growing, and I think the full-time job was really the final straw. I think a very heavy straw, if I'm being honest, that I reach not Campbellian threshold, but I reach this threshold, and on the other side, it's not what I was expecting. And it's not something I want anymore. And although Reflexio says, no. Any path you take, you're going to have this same sort of thought. I'm saying, no, it's not really true. But what Reflexio is really telling me is, you know, I also have to be practical that if I'm going to start pursuing this goal, that means I can't just change again. I can't just start being lazy and start not working on this goal. Reflexio is telling me, is this really illusion? If it's not an illusion, make sure it's not. Make sure you work on it. That's what Reflexio is telling me. To have a be pragmatic like Reflexio. Be pragmatic with a proper schedule, a proper plan, a timeline, goal. And reflect on my performance, just like Reflexio. And keep improving. That's Reflexio. And that's how I not necessarily overcome, but accept Reflexio. And now the final guardian, the hardest guardian, because this is the guardian that, although all three so far, it's not like I've really accepted or overcame them, but in a sense I can convince these three guardians because they're all internal. The last one, although also internal, it is external, which is Materna. This is the guardian that I must face for the shameful return to the nest, as I put it, which is basically saying it's my mom. Because if I'm pursuing art, I'm not gonna have a source of income. I want to go full time in art, you know. And I'm sick of living here, so I'm gonna return back to Japan. I don't know if I've talked about where I come from. I think it's fine. Return back home, and I have to confront her that, hey, this whole thing that I've been working on, the thing that you sacrificed for me, all that, I am kind of throwing it all away and doing something that you're gonna be considered like hell. And it's gonna be a mix of all three guardians, because what if I fail, right? What if, how am I gonna financially sustain myself? It's a worry to her, but also it means I'm constrained to her because of my lack of financial income or my source of income. And of course, she would doubt that. Is this something really realistic? Am I just being kind of immature, and all that? Um, so yeah. And on top of that, but yeah, but it's an actual person, you know. It's not just my internal struggles. It's someone I have to actually like convince outside of this framework I built. So at least my plan is to first acknowledge how much she's done for me. Ask what her concerns are and take it into consideration. And then deliver a plan that does not deny the sacrifice nor the concerns, that is practical, that shows that I'm being realistic, that I will keep pursuing despite the fear of failure. That is how I plan to get through, and I hope I can cross the threshold. But I have 4 months left. 4 months of me of at least getting some source of income. So it's something nice. Luckily, I'm putting most of it in savings. I think this month I'm putting like 60%, 50 to 60% in savings. So yeah, I really don't spend money. And like 30%, no, 40%. Well, money I spend for myself for fun, like food, like junk food and stuff, was less than 10% of my income. So I really